I believe it is.
Okay. We'll go ahead and get this meeting started. Good morning, everyone. Go ahead and call this meeting to order. This is the Transportation Commission meeting for Thursday, February 20th, 2025. Time's about 9 a.m. And we have a first item on the agenda is our call to order, which I just did, and our roll call. Mr. Secretary.
Commissioner Holguin.
Here.
Commissioner Cook, I believe, is excused. Commissioner Stewart.
Here.
Commissioner Gutierrez.
Here.
Commissioner Ritter.
Here.
Commissioner Bowman, who I think is excused.
Yeah.
Commissioner Garcia. I see Commissioner Garcia.
Here.
There you go. Thank you. Commissioner Parsons.
Here.
Commissioner Masters.
Here.
Vice Chair Adams.
Here.
And Chair Hart. And I see Commissioner Cook just
Here.
joined.
And I see that, yeah, I just see that. Good morning. Okay, we've got our quorum here today, so we'll go ahead and get into the first item, which is our public comments. So we've got a list of folks who would like to speak to us this morning, and I'll go down through that list in the order that they have been supplied to us. First person to speak to us is Jack Buchanan. Jack, are you on board?
I'm here. Yeah, thanks for having me.
You bet.
So yeah, I'm involved with the property ownership that is surrounded by the strips that you're, it's on your consent agenda to look at selling to us. That's along Highway 40 and right up next to I-70 up in Evergreen. I want to give you some background on it that might help with the reason for why we began pursuing this acquisition of those strips. Our access to the property right now, we've got 3 access points. 2 of them are on I-70 or I-40, sorry. And they're kind of bunched up. So if you're not familiar with the site, as you get off at the Evergreen exit going westbound, you'll come into where it hits Evergreen Parkway and you take a right, and immediately around the corner there, you'll hit Rainbow Hill Road. Then you'll hit one of the access points right away onto the property. And it's on the strip, but it accesses our property. And then another one just a little bit further up the road. So one of the things we looked at early on was to try and spread those out. We want to try and move the 2 access points that we have on I-40 a little bit farther to the west so that it's a safer access that's not competing so much with the off-ramp Rainbow Hill Road and allows better access in and out of there. To do that requires a couple things. The grades are quite a bit off. The site actually dips way down off of Highway 40, and then we're going to be bringing in fill in a lot of the area to bring it back up. Part of it is already, close to level with Highway 40, but those strips need to be, the one on the south in particular needs to have some fill in it to get it more on grade with Highway 40 because it drops off immediately. The second thing is that we do need to clear some trees, but the trees are pretty much dead anyways. You've had, I'm not a technical on this, but we've had an arborist involved in the project. He said they're all pretty much either dead or dying from mag chloride. That's led to beetle infestation that has crept onto our property. So we're not talking about taking down everything. At least that's not the plan, but at least taking down those that are affected trees or in the areas that we would be grading the site. And then the last thing is drainage. The drainage had kind of fallen apart over the years. Your staff came out probably about a year ago or 8 months ago and repaired part of it, but it still needs to be redone. Right now, there's quite a bit of drainage kind of cutting across our property, causing some damage, and so it needs to be controlled. And so by getting those strips, we'll be able to put the investment into putting drainage along Highway 40 and cure that issue. The last thing that has come up more recently is my wife and I are part owners of a property across the street from this property called the El Rancho Restaurant. And we bought it in 2022 with the idea of saving it, brought in an operator, put quite a bit of money into getting the operation up and going again. And it's lost a ton of money. It just is. And candidly, we've got benefits of seeing the financials back to 2015 with the previous owners. They lost over $5 million in the period of time that they had it. It was closed before they bought it. So it really has not been a solid operation for a very long period of time. And so, my wife and I have a connection to Evergreen. We wanted to save the building. So as nutty as it sounds, the partners came up with the idea, or basically the partners of El Rancho decided to sell the property, just sell it because, again, they've
Mr.
already.
Buchanan, if I can hurry
Yeah.
up here a little bit, we have a 3-minute slot and
Okay.
we
Sorry
want to be
about that.
safe on that, but go ahead.
So-
Yeah, go ahead and wrap it up.
Yeah, I'll wrap it up. So in any event, what's come up recently is that we have plans to move that building. We can only fit the building on our property that's between these two strips if we have the strips. And so it's a make or break for the ability to relocate the historic part of the structure, save the landmark across the street. And so that's basically not really a technical reason to transfer the strips, but it is something that would be pretty valuable to the community. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Buchanan. Appreciate it. The next speaker up is Catherine Moss. Catherine.
Good morning. My name is Catherine Moaz. I'm a local resident in the El Rancho area. Thank you for the opportunity to provide comments. I want the Transportation Commission to understand that right-of-way parcel 29CEX is not a forgotten derelict wayside as disposal parcels tend to be. This parcel is a living strip of land, 1/4 mile long, that contributes both aesthetic value and ecosystem function to the I-70 mountain corridor. Those values will be destroyed and not replicated if it is disposed of to a proposed commercial development. CDOT's own I-70 mountain corridor aesthetic guidance recognizes ecosystem function and scenic value as worthy objectives. CDOT's guidance further stipulates decisions and choices made along the I-70 mountain corridor should be influenced by and support the core values. The same state statute that authorizes disposal, CRS 43-1-210, does also in subsection 2 authorize acquisition of strips or parcels of land adjacent to federal aid highways necessary for the restoration, preservation, and enhancement of scenic beauty. The statutes therefore also recognize scenic value as worthy motive for expenditure. This parcel is an asset that CDOT already owns. It is conspicuous as well as scenic and functional. On average, nearly 100,000 vehicles per day pass this location. This parcel is in the direct field of view from both directions. The public has an interest in this parcel, even if it doesn't know it. Colorado Revised Statute 43-1-210, subsection 5, authorizes disposal of excess property, but it does not mandate disposal in order to generate revenue. Potential revenue from disposal of this parcel is inconsequential in the lifespan of I-70. CDOT acquired this parcel more than 50 years ago. The decision to keep right-of-way parcel 29CEX as it is, scenic and functional, simply by denying disposal, comes down to the 11 people who form the Transportation Commission today. Proposed resolution number 3 on your agenda lists this parcel jointly with the unrelated right-of-way parcel 1EX. Please sever the vote and decide on these parcels independently. For the greater good, please do not dispose right-of-way parcel 29CEX. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Moss. Appreciate your comments. Next person on the list to speak is Matt Shear, Eagle County Commissioner.
Perfect. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Great. Thank you. And good morning to you and members of the commission. I am Eagle County Commissioner Matt Shear, and I'm also here as Vice Chair of the I-70 Coalition, representing that nonprofit organization and its mission to enhance mobility and accessibility in the I-70 mountain corridor. The Mountain Safety Patrol Program plays a pivotal role on the I-70 mountain corridor in both winter and summer. This roadside assistance provides a variety of services to drivers in need, including expediting the clearance of vehicles and debris after a crash. Congestion is a well-known issue on I-70, but it is crashes and incidents that can lead to the most extensive delays and highway closures. The quick clearance of vehicles that are blocking a lane decreases the amount of time a lane or the entire interstate is closed. The Mountain Safety Patrol Program provides real benefit to the mountain corridor, improving mobility on this critical roadway for the benefit of communities, tourists, freight haulers, and Colorado's economy. The I-70 Coalition and Eagle County encourage the Transportation Commission to support efforts to sustain this important service with a favorable vote on Resolution 11 that you'll be considering this afternoon. With that, I thank you for the opportunity and to provide these comments.
Thank you, Commissioner Scheer. Appreciate your comments. Next person we've got listed is Jeff Thormansgod, Vice President of Government Affairs, Colorado Springs Chamber of Commerce. Jeff. Jeff, we still got you muted here. Yeah.
Okay, I think somebody muted me, so I didn't know that. My apologies. That's probably being noisy. At any rate, yeah, my name is Jeff Thormansgard, and I'm here on behalf of the Colorado Springs Chamber of Commerce and Economic Development Corporation. I'm their Vice President for Government Affairs. New, I just started about a month ago, so I will make a mistake, I'm sure, and I apologize in advance. So good morning, members of the committee. I respectfully would like to just discuss with you prioritization of Colorado's transportation infrastructure funding. Colorado's economic vitality depends on a safe and efficient transportation network, yet 28% of the major roads in the Springs are in poor condition, costing the average driver an additional $2,600 annually. These expenses not only burden individuals, but also disrupt business that depend on timely deliveries, reliable commuting for their employees. Every delay, detour, and repair due to deteriorating roads erodes our competitive edge. Recently, improvements on I-25 have demonstrated this positive impact of modernizing aging infrastructure. The Colorado Department of Transportation's I-25 safety and efficiency improvements, and you all knows what those are, but replacing bridges, widening shoulders for emergency maneuvers, continuous median barriers, and acceleration and deceleration lanes, and just the overall widening period of the highway has been incredibly helpful. Local reports, including those from KRDO, indicate that measures have resulted in noticeably smoother and safer driving experiences on I-25 once the temporary traffic configurations were shifted to their final alignment with wider shoulders and extended auxiliary lanes. The merging process improved significantly, reducing bottlenecks and enhancing overall safety. While these improvements are commendable, there remain critical gaps in our infrastructure. Too many transportation dollars are currently diverted to select projects that benefit only small segments of Coloradans, and rather than addressing the most pressing needs that affect millions of residents and businesses. Every wasted dollar is a lost opportunity to bolster transportation system and strengthen business and promote economic growth. We must prioritize funding for high impact transportation projects that support economic expansion, improve mobility, and enhance public safety. Neglecting these essential needs will have long-term detrimental effects on business and residents. So that's all I have to share, and I'd like to thank you very much for allowing me to share those comments with you.
Jeff, thank you for your comments. Much appreciated. Next person signed up on the list is Bobby Daniel, Mesa County Commissioner. Ms. Daniel.
I'm trying to find that mute button. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah, now we can hear you.
Okay, good. Thank you so much. Good morning, Chair and Commissioners. My name is Bobby Daniel, and I serve as the Mesa County Commissioner. I want to thank you for the opportunity to speak today. Balancing budget priorities is no easy job. High population areas have significant infrastructure demands, and at the same time, lower density regions like mine still depend on safe, well-maintained roads and bridges to keep our communities connected and our economy strong. And as a Mesa County Commissioner, I work with local budgets every day and understand the challenges of funding major infrastructure projects with those limited dollars. And I understand your challenges as you move forward with budget priorities. And for many of Colorado's rural communities, state funding is essential. With strategic investment from the state, we can often leverage additional federal grants to make these critical improvements possible. When local dollars and state dollars and federal dollars work together, we can stretch every dollar further and complete those large-scale projects that otherwise wouldn't be possible. The reality is many of our Colorado roads are in serious need of investment. According to the latest TRIP report, 55% of major roads in Grand Junction are in poor or mediocre condition. And that's not just a rural issue, it's a statewide challenge. And as you know, when our roads are in good condition, Colorado drivers and businesses save billions each year in vehicle repairs, save fuel costs, and recover time not spent on the road. So many of the roads that connect our communities are key corridors for the entire state. Tourism, agriculture, and freight all depend on these highways that help our economy thrive. Yet rural infrastructure often struggles to compete for funding against the urban projects. The issue isn't that urban corridors don't need investment, but that rural communities do too. And because these roads serve all Coloradoans, it's important that transportation dollars are allocated fairly across the state. I know this is a complex issue. Prioritizing budget demands requires balancing urgent needs, population centers, and long-term planning. But I ask, as you make these difficult decisions, you consider the unique challenges that rural communities face in funding essential infrastructure. Our local budgets alone can't cover these major projects, but with the right support, we can complete them in ways that benefit the entire state. Thank you for your collaboration with Mesa County, and thank you for your time and commitment to this important work.
Thank you, Commissioner Daniel. Appreciate your comments. Next item, next person on the list is Mark Amish, Amish Farms. Mark.
Chair, I haven't seen Mark join yet, but I will let you know if he does jump on a little bit late.
Okay. We'll go ahead and move on to the next person who signed up is Lisa Huff, President and CEO of Adams County Regional Economic Partnership. Lisa.
Good morning. Thank you, Chair. My name's Lisa Huff, and I'm the President and CEO of the Adams County Regional Economic Partnership, or ACREP. ACREP is the Regional Chamber and Economic Development Organization for Adams County. I'm here today on behalf of Colorado's business community, specifically speaking on behalf of our over 75 primary employers members in the Adams County region. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank Commissioner Stewart for her continued support of our region's transportation needs. A safe and efficient and well-maintained transportation network is a major contributor to our economic success. Unfortunately, Colorado has fallen behind when it comes to our roads and bridges, especially in Adams County. We're home to all 5 federal interstates in Colorado and several of our major state highways. I would like to say that I think all freight in the state generally flows through one of our roadways in the county. In the 2025 TRIP report, it shows that traffic congestion in the Denver area costs the average commuter an extra 54 hours per year sitting in traffic. That means more than a full work week is lost to gridlock. Employees arrive late or stressed if they arrive at all, if they had an accident, and consequently, they reduce productivity along the way. Businesses end up paying more for freight and shipping due to the delays, and tourism and commerce can suffer because visitors and shoppers will avoid high-traffic, crash-prone areas. In a recent conversation I had with one of our hospital CEOs, he mentioned as one of his top concerns, making sure that his employees had safe transportation to and from the hospital as a major effort that he'd like to undertake. If Colorado's economy is to remain competitive, we must prioritize funding for the most pressing infrastructure needs. That means fixing roads and highways that impact the largest number of people, rather than diverting money to projects that only serve a select few. I would offer that some of our major commuting routes, including the roadways of Adams County, whether getting to or from the major employment centers or to and from the airport, go through our region. I-270 is one of our major concerns for funding and improvements, and we really appreciate the current CDOT work on the York Street Bridge, as well as the corridor improvement studies for that area. I would just like to reemphasize that that roadway definitely needs your attention. Transportation funding must continue to be directed towards projects that offer the most significant return on investment, serve the broader community, and reinforce our economic growth. For too long, Adams County region has been overlooked, so I'm here today to reemphasize our business community's desires for improvements. And I thank you for your time today.
Thank you, Ms. Huff. We appreciate your comments. That takes us next to Longinos Gonzalez, former El Paso County Commissioner. Longinos.
Good morning, Chair Hart and members of the committee. Thank you for allowing me to speak on an issue that affects everyday Coloradans who experience firsthand the consequences of our state's aging and stressed transportation infrastructure. I'm Dr. Longinos Gonzalez, and I'm here today as a concerned citizen, but as mentioned, have firsthand experience in transportation issues as a former county commissioner. While in my previous career in the military, I've lived and worked in places like Los Angeles and Miami, leaving extra early in the morning to avoid gridlock on roads. And we are seeing that type of growing gridlock up and down the Front Range and elsewhere on roads that don't meet capacity needs and worse, riddled with potholes. The 2025 TRIP report concluded that Colorado motorists collectively lose $11.4 billion annually due to congestion, safety hazards, and vehicle damage from poor roads. That translates to an extra $901 per driver in added vehicle maintenance costs in Denver alone. And the problem is just as bad in other areas of the state and the Pikes Peak region. Our roads are in disrepair and need improved maintenance, and in many cases, capacity expansion. Commuters lose valuable time and hours each week that could be spent being productive at work or spending time with their families. Businesses struggle with delayed shipments, increased fuel costs, and supply chain disruptions, impacting their bottom line and our state's economy, which affects the state's budget, as we're seeing right now at the legislature. And far from last in importance, public safety is compromised. Emergency responders are slowed down by congestion and crumbling infrastructure. The frustrating part is that transportation funding does exist to address these issues, but it's not always spent where needed most. Instead of directing transportation dollars toward projects that improve the most heavily used roads throughout the state, we too often see funds funneled into initiatives that benefit only small and sometimes select communities. Let's properly fund repairs, expand capacity where needed, not only in one or two metro areas. We cannot afford to continue down this path. Colorado's transportation spending should reflect the needs of the people who use our roads daily. If we fail to act, we will pay not only in dollars, but also in lost time, lost productivity, and potentially, and most tragically, lost lives. Thank you again for your time.
Thank you, Commissioner Gonzalez. It's good seeing you again. All right, Herman, has Mr. Amish jumped on the line yet?
I haven't seen, but Jamie or Jose, have you seen the person join? It doesn't look like it. If he does join, I'll send you a message so you can call on him later in the meeting.
Sounds good. Thank you. With that, we'll go ahead and proceed into the rest of our agenda here. Next item is comments of the chair and the commissioners. And I'll just go through the folks I'm seeing on the order that I see them on the screen here. First person up would be Commissioner Masters. Commissioner Masters.
Yes, good morning, Chair. I just want to make two comments in regards to the travel on Colorado highways last week over our holiday weekend was absolutely tragic. We lost countless lives, and we lost, to my count right now, 5 Colorado patrol cars with only 1 officer being hurt. It's my understanding, based on what information I have today, the majority of these were caused by traveling too fast for road conditions. So I just implore our traveling public to please be safe and travel to the speed to the conditions of the highway. We keep the roads clear. CDOT does as good a job as anybody in the world. And these people are driving too fast. When our state patrol officers are endangered, that means we're endangered everywhere. That means you endanger other drivers. So please, just be cautious. And thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Masters. Can't agree with you more. It's just horrible what we're seeing out there. Next up is Commissioner Gutierrez.
Thank you, Chair Hart. I couldn't agree more with Commissioner Masters. My comments are regularly experiencing driving through some of our construction zones and some of the unsafe drivers that I experience. And if people would just slow down to the posted speeds through those work zones, we would all get through there faster, because once there's a crash, nobody gets anywhere. So if we just used a little common sense there, and I would really, really ask our drivers out there, our citizens out there, to please be careful with meeting the speed limits in our work zones, and keeping our workers, as well as all of us, safe through those work zones. So thanks for your comments too, as well, Commissioner Masters. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Commissioner Gutierrez. Next up is Commissioner Holguin.
Thank you, Chair Hart. I want to start off my comments by thanking the maintenance operators for keeping our roads safe as possible during these harsh winter conditions. The plow operators are sacrificing their time with families to keep everyone safe, and they're doing a fantastic job in the metro area. I wanted to take a little bit of time. I attended the DRCOG's RTC meeting yesterday, where we had the 2025 federal safety targets overview. We went over the performance measures, which in essence should trend lower, with less people killed, lower fatality rate, less serious injuries, non-motorized vehicles. And we're not trending in the right direction in the metro area. And as a region, we're missing the target. And while I recognize that the target is set, there's a formulaic process, these are people's lives. And I'm concerned because I don't know how we can ever achieve these targets given our financial constraints. I am deeply concerned with the current funding restrictions in Colorado. And as we hear our public comments, safe, well-maintained roads are becoming more of a challenge. Serious investment is needed in our state. And yet, in a time when the state is choosing refunds over investment, this really concerns me. I'm half jokingly telling my friends, better save that Tabor refund because you're going to need it for your car repairs, because that is the reality where we're standing right now. So with that, I'll leave my comments at that. Thank you for the opportunity to comment.
Thank you, Commissioner Holguin. Much appreciated. Next up is Commissioner Stewart.
Thank you, Chair Hart, and thank you for the previous speakers. I want to give my appreciation today for people who came in front of us for public comments, and I appreciate the opportunity to hear from you and hear your concerns. There's another opportunity coming up. We're in the process of doing the statewide plan. It informs the 10-year plan, and we're in that process now. Hopefully, early in April, we'll be having virtual town halls for each of the districts of the state to talk to your commissioners and have you give us input on the statewide plan needs and challenges. And at the same time, we'll have an online survey for you to do as well. So as soon as those meetings are set, we'll let you know. We'll put out some communications, and we will look forward to hearing more of your comments. It's so important for you to inform us across the state as to what you are seeing out there and what you're experiencing out there and what you think we should be spending our investments in transportation on. So thank you very much. That's all I have, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Stewart. Next up is Commissioner Ritter.
Thank you very much, Chair. Just want to make a couple comments. One, I realized there was significant snow over the holiday weekend, and I realized that our I-70 tunnel area was particularly struck by serious snow and obviously holiday traffic. However, with that in mind, I traveled yesterday afternoon from Denver to Steamboat, and I can tell you that the roads were clear. And I just wanted to thank our maintenance team for turning that around in such a significant way. I was highly struck about how clear the roads were 24 hours after a serious snow event. Thank you. Second thing is, I always am aware at this time of year between really late February, early May, that there is a high volume of wildlife coming down from various
high places or moving to high places. So be aware that wildlife will be on the road during this period. And similar to Commissioner Masters, take time and look, be aware that there will be wildlife on the road.
Thank you, Commissioner Ritter. Next up is Commissioner Parsons.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I just wanted to mention, I attended the Pikes Peak Area Council of Governments MPO meeting earlier this month, and where they were adopting their long-range transportation plan. And just want to shout out to all the people that work on those plans. It's a lot of work that goes into that. And so it's a significant milestone when that's adopted. So just great appreciation there. And then I also want to thank the people who attended to make public comment, especially around the budget. I think I just want everybody to be clear that we as commissioners share those concerns about the budget and the funding for roads and mobility throughout the state. And I just want to let you know, we hear you. We're appreciative of the executive team from CDOT who's been advocating on our behalf with the Joint Budget Committee. And I encourage all of you who spoke publicly to do that, to also ensure that you're carrying this message to your representatives in the General Assembly to make sure they hear your concerns, because ultimate budget prioritization is happening now with the JBC. So please make sure and carry that message to your representatives at the General Assembly. And we are in full agreement. And I have to echo Commissioner Holguin and her kind of jokes with her colleagues and friends, is sometimes people complain about construction zones and cone zones. And I tell people, well, don't worry, at the rate we're going, we won't have too many in the future. So we really need to advocate strongly for funding for our roads. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Parsons. Next up is Commissioner Garcia.
Thank you, Chair. Good morning, everyone. Going towards the end of the pack here makes it easier, as all my fellow commissioners have touched on things that I was hoping to share with everyone. I echo Commissioner Parsons and Commissioner Holguin's comments as well in regards to the budget, road maintenance. I echo Commissioner Stewart's comments about our public comments. Thank you to all our public speakers today for sharing with us concerns and issues that you have in the state. Please stay engaged. I attended the Southwest TPR meeting last week, and we went through our 10-year plan MMOF projects for our communities, and it was a good discussion and a good meeting. I shared the concerns of some of my fellow commissioners with some of our funding challenges that we have, and yesterday's work session on changes to the budget, funding for 10-year plan projects and things of that nature are of concern for sure. But we have limited funding and may see less in the near future. So we're going to have to do the best that we can. Thank you again, public speakers, and thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Commissioner Garcia. Next up is Commissioner Cook.
Yeah, sorry. Boy, as Commissioner Garcia said, it's great to go at the end of a bunch of really good remarks. I'd echo everything that has been said about the budget, thanking folks who have taken the time to talk to us this morning, and expressing, their interest in what CDOT is doing. For me, it was a pretty busy month. Went to a town hall that was hosted by the county commissioners in Jeffco up in Evergreen. That's always really beneficial to learn what's going on and how people are responding to things that are happening. Stopped in at the 270 public meeting. It's good to see that we're able to move forward on improvements in the 270 corridor, because that one's so critical. And then this week, as mentioned by Commissioner Holguin, we attended the DRCOG RTC meeting, as well as I got to go to the CTIO board meeting and hear or listen in on that today or yesterday. But from a bird's eye view, what was striking to me this month was it lent itself so much to learning about, kind of celebrating CDOT's employees. We had WTS, we've all heard about that. It was such a delight to be able to attend that ceremony and see CDOT honored both as Employer of the Year and Heather Paddock as Person of the Year, and for the 2 extra projects, the Blue Mesa Emergency Repairs and then Centerra Loveland Mobility Hub. And then this past week, I got to watch the latest intern report out, which is just a favorite for me. It's this really impressive group of young people, sometimes people who are in midlife changes, who do meaningful work for CDOT, and helps you really see the breadth of work that goes on at the agency. And the benefits go both ways, because the interns really highlight how the challenges that they are able to face and surmount here improve their expertise and add to their resume. And we take advantage of their particular skills. For example, there was one intern who had a degree in biology, and so the agency took advantage of that to address a gap in its knowledge about aquatic passages, I think they call it. And so, that plus then yesterday, and with comments by Commissioner Masters and others about safety on the roads in bad weather and problems that we see with incidents, having secondary incidents that happen, the longer it takes to clear it. That video that Bob Pfeiffer presented yesterday, and information about our collaboration with all the agencies to help efficiently and quickly and safely move people out of the incident area so as to prevent those add-on crashes. All of that in light of kind of everything that's happening, it makes me really glad to be in a state and part of an agency that recognizes and values the real hard work and meaningful contributions of its employees. So thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Cook. Next up is Vice Chair Adams.
Thank you very much. I just, first of all, I'd like to echo and say how much I appreciate all the previous comments by all the other commissioners. And I won't repeat some of those, but I thought I'd make a couple of points. One is, as always, I'd like to start by really thanking the CDOT staff and employees, particularly the people who actually are on the front line with all the maintenance work during the really harsh weather that we've experienced in Colorado. It is certainly something to admire in terms of their continued dedication to keep our roads open and safe. So generally speaking, thanks. The other point I'd like to make is I can't recall a time where we've been challenged as much on the national, state, and local front with all the uncertainty around where things are going to end up with respect to elimination of departments or positions or other challenges against our spending. So it's going to be really challenging for all of us. And so we're going to just have to stay positive and try and continue to be involved. So with that, I would say I greatly appreciate all the comments from all of our speakers today, because I think that it is really vitally important that none of us lose sight of the fact that we do have a voice and we have to be heard. So I particularly appreciate the statements, and I will call them concerns, but not just concerns, but the insights into some of the things that we need to focus on and zero on. And I would encourage you to not just bring those to CDOT, but take them to all the other sources, both state, federal, every place we can take them so that our voices are collectively heard. I share the concerns regarding optimizing our limited and sometimes declining resources that we have available to us to maintain our roads. And just for those speakers that are still with us, I'd like to make sure you understand that one of the questions I always try and ask of our finance group when they present budgets and other data is, where are we with respect to our spending on maintaining our roads and our bridges and our tunnels? We are not happy with how we're rated. We're not happy with the roads and the bridges and the tunnels, both in the rural communities and in the urban communities. And we don't have enough resources to do it. I'm discouraged sometimes when I hear words like, we're trying to maintain it, but in actuality, when you look at cost of living and you look at other challenges, we're actually falling behind. And so we have to continue to stay diligent, continue to press for maintaining the quality of our roads, and try and work on the changes that Commissioner Hogan talked about, so that we don't have to say to our colleagues and our other citizens that they can use their TABOR refunds to repair the vehicles, but instead we can use it where it's best used, which is to give it to CDOT and let CDOT really take care of and do the work it's intended to do on our roads, bridges, and tunnels. So thank you, and I'll return it back to you, Chair Hart.
Thank you, Vice Chair Adams. Well said. And I won't take too much of time. I definitely want to join the choir on the comments that my fellow commissioners have shared this morning. Those are exactly the same comments that I had jotted down, and I don't want to dwell on them too much either, but I think that you've all done a real good job of outlining some of our issues. Safety is one of the issues that we talk about constantly, we try to work on constantly, and yet we are still seeing the results that Commissioner Masters talked about, the graphic problems that we are seeing. And that is something that we're looking for newer and newer ways to help protect the traveling public. Good deal of that, we've had a lot of this conversation has to do with the traveling public itself. We all need to slow down, be aware, and for goodness sakes, whenever you see someone on the side of the road or in a safety zone, that is the key time to slow down, be careful, get out of that lane, get over to another lane, and just, you know, the golden rule, we don't seem to practice it anymore. If you're broken down on the side of the road, I'm sure that you would love to see traffic get out of that lane and go to the other side. We all need to start practicing that again. I also want to take a moment to thank our wonderful staff. This has been a challenging few weeks, few months. It seemed like winter has been with us a number of years. I don't know about you, but I'm pretty tired of it. But our staff is out there every single day dealing with this. And I agree with Commissioner Ritter. I'm just stunned at how wonderful a job that they do and how we keep the public moving even under the most difficult circumstances. So thank you so much to the staff. And then finally, definitely want to talk about the comments we heard from our members of the public, as well as many of our commissioners, including very well put by Commissioner Stewart about this funding issue and Commissioner Holguin about this funding issue. We are in the midst of our updating our statewide plan, and Commissioner Stewart has outlined we very much want to hear from the public, and we're trying to find every way in the world to plug into the public on thoughts, questions, concerns about what the needs are across the state, not only for new projects, but maintaining what we already have. And so we're hoping that everybody please pay attention to that, and please give us your thoughts. Each of the local jurisdictions will be dealing with this, particularly from the local issue perspective, but also statewide, trying to figure out how in the world to best balance the funding that we do have between our rural demands, which are critically important, as well as our urban demands, which are also critically important, is very difficult. And one thing that's come out that's definitely come to my attention is the fact that folks, what we're basically facing is a very difficult circumstance where we have increased demand based upon increased costs due to inflation and those sort of things, and increased population. So our need to have more funding is going up rapidly. And yet what we're seeing on the funding side is just the opposite. We're seeing a restriction on the amount of money that is available to us on both the state and the federal level. And it's one of those things that, frankly, we as a society and a community we're going to need to figure out how to tackle that and how best to prioritize that. Because there's only so much money, only so much that we as humans and we as our staff as humans can do in order to do things if they don't have the funding to tackle it. So anyway, those are my comments. Thank you so much for all the wonderful comments we received from the public. And also thank you so much for the comments that we received from the commissioners. So with that, we'll go ahead and proceed with our agenda. The next item on the agenda is our Executive Director's Management Report from Director Liu. Director Liu.
Yeah, good morning and thanks, Chair. Obviously a busy week for the whole team at CDOT, given the kind of confluence of a holiday weekend and really severe weather conditions in many parts of the state, as you all well know. So I would just note how hard our folks have been working, day in and day out, particularly over the past week, to get through this on a lot of different dimensions. I mean, everybody from the crews who are clearing the roads, who, I think are staffed at levels that are sufficient to do it, but it's still, they get stuck in traffic too, particularly when traffic is tight. So they had a rough weekend. Also, a lot of work by the weather forecasting and avalanche mitigation team, given the volatility that we've seen over the past week. And, we are lucky to have some of the best in that respect, and a fantastic partnership with folks like the Colorado Avalanche Information Center. But, this is a tricky part of winter when you see these kinds of weather shifts and the intensity of snow that we saw last week. So just a big lift from a lot of different parts of the CDOT team that is ongoing, as we were expecting another dose of weather this evening. And I would say, Chair Hart, that you were perspicacious in perhaps recommending that this be a virtual event, given when the forecast seems to be coming in. I would reiterate how big a deal it was for the CDOT team to get those awards from WTS, and we're very proud of Heather for winning the person-specific award, which is very, very well deserved. But it also kind of came with an affirmation of the projects that the teams are doing on roads across the state. The two projects that were called out are just kind of a sampling of the kinds of work that our regions have done. And for those who have forgot, since last month, there was a big accolade to the US 50 project, as well as to the mobility hub on I-25 that Heather and her team championed. So it was kind of nice to see the person in the project honored in one breath in Region 4 and the work in Region 3. And of course, us being named as Employer of the Year, with a lot of our team there to be part of accepting that. You've heard a little bit about some of the budget constraints. One thing that I would just make sure we kind of reiterate for everyone is that getting the budget office to send a request to the JBC to restore really most of the proposed cuts to the CDOT budget during as tight a budget year as we're in is a very big deal. I don't think there was another agency in the state government that got that, and a lot of work went into being able to find the offsets to make that proposal possible. And I just want to kind of stress that was a very, very big deal, and a lot of work went into that by both the CDOT team as well as our colleagues in the budget office, who really looked under every couch cushion to make it possible. And a lot of hard late days on that. Unfortunately, the JBC didn't take the proposal when they did figure setting for transportation. So I think urging the JBC to take the amended request from CDOT and the budget office and the administration to mitigate those cuts is going to be important as the session continues, because right now, the folks on the legislative side did not reduce the amount of the cuts anywhere near what was requested. So that's going to be a big effort on the legislative side over the coming weeks and months, because it's really, again, we found a pathway to make it possible to hold CDOT a lot closer to harmless in a session where people are taking big cuts all over, and we need to get it executed in the legislature now. Finally, I would just note that as we work through the 10-year plan, there's a lot of conversations going on at the staff level about how to kind of keep the focus on the rural roads resurfacing program, which was kind of an unprecedented effort that's worked very well in the last few years. And I think the fact that it's we hear from so many quarters that it needs to continue is testament to the fact that it was a good idea when we started it 4 or 5 years ago. Lots of results to show for it, and needs to keep going, and we agree with that. Along with the focus on getting some of the metrics like interstate core to the place where they need to be. I would note that there's a little bit of a push and pull, and I think we're hearing in some of the comments a bit of a conflation between expansion projects of all kinds, whatever mode, versus state of good repair. Those are not the same, and typically the trade-off is most sharply between any kind of capacity expansion project, whether it's on the highway or transit side, versus fixing pavement and culverts and the kind of bread and butter work. And I think we just have to make sure that as we have that conversation about the distinction between asset management and sort of forward-looking projects, whose ever policy priority they are, it's clear that we're not conflating, the kind of pothole repair en masse with any of the projects that sort of change the shape of the system, because that's where a lot of the competition for dollars ultimately happens. That's it for me. Thanks.
Thank you, Director Liu. Next up on the agenda is our Chief Engineers report with Keith Stefanik. Keith.
Morning. Thank you, Chair. I first wanted to start off and just thank all of the commissioners for your comments on safety. One thing that I continue to push within our organization is safety culture. We just spoke a lot about it this week at an EMT retreat, but if we continue to put focus on safety, I think as a whole organization, we'll be able to move the needle on it. So the more we talk about it, the more people hear about it, the more focus we put on it. So I really appreciate the comments from that perspective. The second thing I wanted to cover is I just wanted to take a moment. This week is National Engineers Week. So I wanted to just say thank you to all of the engineers within our organization and all the engineering staff, and quite frankly, anyone that delivers the capital program within CDOT. It takes a big team to deliver the program across the board. It continues to increase on a yearly basis, but it's really notable the amount of work that we push out and get to our infrastructure on any given year. So I just wanted to thank all the engineers and the engineering teams across the board at CDOT this week. One thing that I've been able to do over the past couple months, all of the regions have put on what we call either engineering conferences or winter conferences, where we invite the consulting community as well as CDOT within our regions, and we sit down, and it's either sometimes a 1 day, sometimes a 2 day event, and go through a lot of items and try to collaborate and communicate better within our organization and with our partners. And the agendas that I've seen from the regions on that aspect has been really remarkable. I think they're all talking about the right things. I've spoke out of 4 out of 5 regions so far, and one of the big pushes I have is the safety culture. So continue to push the dial on that. It always gets positive feedback on the safety items. I think people are taking it in and trying to apply that in their everyday activities. So I really appreciate that from that perspective. And with that, I just also wanted to just say thank you to the entire CDOT organization for the amount of work that goes on to maintaining a system. The past week has been incredible to see how many people are out trying to keep the roads open for the traveling public. And I don't get involved too much on the operations side, but it is remarkable that our maintenance staff and our traffic incident management staff and our DMO staff can keep things moving across the state. It takes a big army to do that, and I think a lot of people take it for granted what it takes to get people back and forth across our beautiful state. So just wanted to say thank you to everyone, and appreciate again all the comments from the commissioners.
Thank you, Keith. Next item, our next on the agenda is our CTIO Director's Report with Piper Darlington. Piper.
Hi, thank you, Chair Hart. Morning, Commissioners. A couple brief updates from me this morning. CTIO held its monthly board meeting yesterday, and in addition to, we had some routine workshops on our annual upcoming budget. We also had a presentation from the Division in Transit and Rail Director, Paul DeRocher, came and presented on our upcoming kind of mountain rail project, which is a project we're working on collaboratively together to deliver, under Senate Bill 184. There was one action item taken that I wanted to make this group aware of because it is related to an action that you are going to be requested to take later on in the agenda. But the CTIO board was briefed on the Safety Patrol Sponsorship IAA, and they did overwhelmingly approve that yesterday at our meeting. So wanted to make this group aware. Last item I wanted to make the commission aware of is that CTIO has an annual requirement, which was established when we were created back in 2009 to produce an annual legislative report. It is due by February 15th of every year, and we just completed our report for 2024. We are going to be, it's available online, but also wanted to make this group aware that we are going to be printing hard copies for our board. So I will maybe coordinate with Herman to take a poll if anyone is interested in having a hard copy as well that's on the commission. It's a great resource if you're in an area where there's express lanes or there's safety and toll enforcement going on, but it's a really good resource for all things CTIO. So Herman, maybe I'll coordinate through you, and if there's some commissioners who are interested in having a hard copy, we can provide that on our print run. That was looking at my notes. Those were all the updates from me, but happy to answer any questions from the commissioners.
All right, thank you. Any questions? Doesn't look like it. Thank you, Piper.
Thank you, Chair Hart.
You bet. Next item on the agenda is a legislative update with Emily Hadaway. Emily.
Hi, everyone. Hope you're all doing well. Just a few updates from me as well. I think Director Liu covered the budget overview very well. We have our follow-up to our figure setting early next week or early March 4th. So that will be the next time we'll be in front of the JBC. And then official comebacks to the JBC will be later in March. So that process will really start ramping up next month, but we're continuing to engage with the JBC about our proposals. They have so many different proposals that they're navigating right now that they've expressed that they're going to be depending a lot more on comebacks for all of the agencies, which is kind of irregular, but it does make sense because it is such a tight budget year. We've been engaging on a few different bills this week that were drafted to repeal different fees that are remitted to CDOT. So one of those bills was up in the House earlier this week. It was set to repeal retail delivery fees. So I testified in opposition to that one. There was also another bill that was up in the Senate at the same time that was drafted to repeal the rental car fee from Faster, the rideshare fee from SB 260, the road usage fee from SB 260, and a few other fees as well. And so we also testified in opposition to that one. And those two bills did not move forward through their first committee hearings. I've also been engaging on a few different CMV bills that have been up in the past few weeks. Last week, there was a bill that was heard in Senate Transportation and Energy, which I've mentioned before, a tire chain traction control device. Director Liu was there virtually to testify in support of that bill. That is a bill that would enable independent vendors to seek permits from CDOT to perform chain assist activities in CDOT right-of-way. And designated chain up stations. And so it doesn't enable them to sell chains, but it does enable them, these independent vendors to assist with chains as well as alternate traction devices. There was also a bill that was up yesterday, which I don't think I've mentioned too much before. It's commercial, it's a bill related to autonomous commercial vehicles. And so that's one that we learned a lot about at the end of last week. Our team had flagged some concerns with that bill. It basically requires autonomous commercial trucks to have a driver with a CDL in the vehicle at all times if traveling on the interstate or state highway. Which definitely understand the intention behind the bill. At this time, though, we haven't seen many applications come through the autonomous vehicles task force that we are part of with State Patrol. And so the governor's office ultimately directed us to oppose that bill just for some concerns that it's too early to be setting these kind of blanket regulations when we do already have a regulatory framework in place. We also had some concerns on the CDOT side about potential implications for our autonomous attenuators. We currently have 2 of those, and so I spoke to that yesterday, and then CSP also spoke to the potential safety benefits of autonomous commercial vehicles, and also just to the current framework we have in place to protect any unsafe vehicles from entering Colorado in that space. I think that's really the gist of what's been coming up the last few weeks. The paratransit bill that I've mentioned a few times did have its first hearing, and the paratransit task force was removed, that CDOT would have had administered, so that's no longer in the bill. The transit reform bill was also introduced, so that's set to have its first hearings in the next few weeks. And there's also a bill next week that we'll be engaging on called Best Value Design Build Transportation Contracts that would change the definition of best value in state statute. So Keith and Bob and I met yesterday with the advocates of that bill to kind of understand their intentions, and I think it sounds like we can get to a good spot with that bill in terms of agreeing on some amendments. So that's up next week on Tuesday. But those are the general updates of the last few weeks.
Thank you, Emily. Appreciate the report and keep up the good work helping us over on the Hill. It's always critically necessary, particularly this time of year. Next up on the agenda is the FHWA Division Administrator Report from John Cater. John.
Good morning. Thank you. Like many others, I'm going to talk about safety a little bit. So I think that's the sign that we all hold it in very high degree of importance. So just a little background, our fatalities in 2022 set a record. We had 754 fatalities in Colorado, and that's the highest it had ever been. Since then, we've been going down. So we're making some progress. In 2023, we were down to 716, which is about a 5% decrease. And it looks like the numbers for 2024, they're still not final, but preliminary numbers look like they're going to be around 683, which is again roughly a 5% reduction. So we're trending in the right direction. We're still much higher than we've been historically, where we've been in the 400s. So we're still high, but we are trending in the right direction, which I think is something we can take as a silver lining maybe from the situation. Much left yet left to do. So the framework we use, or what we use is our vehicle for reducing fatalities and improving safety is the Strategic Highway Safety Plan, and that's something it's approved every 5 years. The previous one was approved in May of 2020, so we're in the process of finalizing the plan for this year. So we're the draft, as I understand it, is going to be finalized any day now, and then the draft will be completed. Then it'll be finalized over the next month in end of March, and then it'll go to review for the executive director and to Federal Highway here. And so we hope to have that completed by the end of May. But that kind of lays out the where we're going to collectively target our resources, how we're going to approach it, whether it's protecting vulnerable road users or whether it's working with underrepresented groups or what types of improvements to make it. It kind of lays out that big picture framework. So it's a big deal. It's an important exercise, and just want to make you aware that that's being finalized for the next 5-year period, and it's one that we're going to definitely utilize going forward, hopefully as a tool to continue that downward direction and maybe even accelerate it, hopefully, and get those fatalities much lower. So that's it for me, and thank you.
Thank you, John. Next item on the agenda is our STEC report. Gary Beatty.
Good morning, Commission. Very cold, chilly day out here. We had our meeting on February 6th. It was a fairly short meeting. A lot of the updates that you heard and further updates for legislation and budget. Our main topics of discussion were, we had a presentation on the Colorado Transportation Vision 2035 that talked about the state CDOT's vision, or Colorado's transportation vision. Not exactly sure who all wrote that. since it's not really part of our 2035 plan, it seems to be a different plan. Some of the comments from it afterwards was the emphasis on transit and things, and it does mention preservation of the system and system quality, but most of the goal items are geared toward transit. And those items and some of the concerns with that were the high goals that partly come out of the PD 14 also directive is trying to meet those transit goals that are in that are very high and will require large investments from local communities, cities, counties, and the state also to ever try to meet those. One of the other concerns is it's just looking at service miles and not necessarily looking at actually getting people to use the service. And that's been a concern for the people on STAC. And then the other one is that it doesn't really highlight the goal of preservation and investment in just the highway system that supports all transit. So those are kind of the top goal or concerns out of that presentation, and that there wasn't involvement of the TPRs and all the statewide planners in seeming to draft that. We're not sure who or where that was drafted from. So those are just some concerns with that plan that was presented from the state. The statewide plan update, as we're all the TPRs and regions are moving through our 2045 transportation plan update. Everybody's in their own set of those. Some of the things coming up with that are the town halls that were mentioned that are going to be coming up, and then also a statewide survey that STAC is hoping to review that with staff at our next meeting to give input on the wording and how that survey's presented to the public so we can get a good broad perspective of where people think our priorities should be on a statewide basis, and make sure those questions aren't too leading or biased in one direction or another, so that we get a good feedback from the public on where, so they can give good feedback on where they think we should be investing our transportation dollars. That was our meeting in a nutshell. Just did want to reiterate the comments from the public and the commissioners all on the importance of trying to preserve our system. Just want to share. So I was coming back last weekend from helping my daughter move in Greeley to a new house. As I was on I-70 headed back home, a couple bridges that I have mentioned when I was on the commission still have not been addressed for the deck quality. It continually gets potholes. And one of the bridges I noticed there were two cars just past the bridge with flat tires. We'd had that cold freeze thaw cycle that we face this time of year in Colorado that definitely takes its toll on our infrastructure. But this is a bridge I'd brought forward that needs at least deck rehabilitation because it is becoming more pothole than deck. Currently, there's two of them on the westbound, and the eastbound are starting to show the same signs. Those are 60-year-old bridges. So it's one thing I think we really need to look at is figuring out how CDOT can manage those sorts of things and get them to move through faster on the planning process to at least rehab decks and things. I know the budget issue is always there, that we all need to work on figuring out how we get more funding into transportation and the preservation of our system. But just wanted to share that again, since those two bridges had been on my radar for over it's been 5 years since the first time I reported it to CDOT. So it's a concern, and I know you all share the same concerns, but we need to really figure out how to get that into the legislature and our funding concerns. So thank you.
Thank you, Gary. And Commissioner Garcia, I apologize. I didn't see your hand up until I had moved on. Did you have a question that you'd like to raise with John Cater?
It's fine.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Gary. That takes us on to the next item on the agenda, which is the request to act on our consent agenda. On our consent agenda, we have several items today. First is the proposed resolution number 1 to approve the regular meeting minutes of our January 16, 2025 meeting. The second item is a proposed resolution number 2, IGA approval for projects over $750,000. The next item is proposed resolution number 3, disposal of parcels 29CEX and 1EX El Rancho. The next item is proposed resolution number 4, disposal of parcels 203, 204, 205, 206, and 207EX in Silver Plume. The next item is proposed resolution number 5, approval of CDOT maintenance projects between $150,000 and $300,000. And the final item is a proposed resolution number 6, MMOF match reduction request. Those are the items that are on our consent agenda. That is before the commission for consideration. Do we have a motion with regard to the consent agenda? Commissioner Cook.
I want to just ask a quick question about resolution number 3, which was the El Rancho disposition. I don't know if Keith Stefanik, but the question is, we have a set of regulations that we follow in order to determine if a property can be sold. I just want to verify, and maybe you could just highlight how you have followed that process for us.
Yeah, I don't know if Jessica Mickelbus wants to take this one. This was presented by Region 1, but yes, typically to get to a process on the disposal, it needs to follow all of our state statutes, which include federal requirements. Federal money was used. So yes, I can verify that to get to this point, all of the processes that our property management division go through and are required to do is followed on here. I don't have those listed out in front of me right now to share with you, Commissioner Cook, but I can follow up with you on that. But yes, to get to the disposal process on the agenda, I can confirm that all of our internal procedures that we need to accomplish have been followed.
Okay. Given that, and I'm sure weighing of interests and so forth, I'll go ahead and move approval of the consent agenda, including this item.
I'll second.
Okay, thank you. We've got a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed?
Nay.
Okay, we've got a negative vote. Record that. All right, that motion passes. That'll take us to the next item, which is item discuss and act on proposed resolution number 7, right-of-way condemnation authority request for Front Range Holdings LLC. Keith Stefanik.
All right, thank you, commissioners. The item in front of us right now, we spoke at workshop yesterday. There was a combined workshop for item proposed resolution 7 and proposed resolution 8, where we walked through the details of each property, the need to acquire, and where we were at with the negotiations with the property owner. So the first item here today is proposed resolution 7, which is to request right-of-way condemnation authorization from the Transportation Commission regarding the Front Range Holdings LLC property, which is associated with the North I-25 Segment 5 project in Region 4. With that, I'm happy to answer any further questions from the information that we presented yesterday at Transportation Commission workshop.
All right, thank you, Keith. Is there any questions from any of the commissioners? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion.
So moved.
Got a motion from Commissioner Holguin. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Commissioner Gutierrez. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 All opposed say no. All right, that passes. Thank you. That takes us to the next item on the agenda. Discuss and act on proposed resolution number 8, right-of-way condemnation authorization, WCR 34 and Highway 25-220 LLC. Keith.
All right. Thanks again, Chair. As previously stated, this is the second property associated with the North I-25 Segment 5 project that we discussed yesterday. Went through the details of the property, the acquisition areas, the reason for the acquisition areas, and the status of the negotiation with the property owner. At this time, we do request the Transportation Commission provide authorization to move forward with condemnation proceedings on these properties. So the resolution in front of you today, proposal resolution 8, we ask for your approval to move forward with condemnation authorization request for WCR 34 and Highway 25-220 LLC property associated with that project.
All right. Are there any questions or comments on this one from the commission? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion.
Motion.
Been moved by Commissioner Masters. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been seconded by Commissioner Gutierrez. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. That passes. Thank you. That takes us on to the next item, which is discuss and act on proposed resolution number 9, Fifth Amendment supplement of FY25. Jeff Sudmeyer. Jeff.
Morning.
Morning.
I'm requesting your approval of the February budget supplement. We discussed this in a workshop yesterday. February supplement includes 4 requests, 3 of which are reallocations between projects in the 10-year plan. The first is a request from Region 1 and DTR to reallocate $2.2 million from the Castle Rock Mobility Hub project to the Lone Tree Mobility Hub project to fund a shortfall after bid prices came in high. The second request we discussed as part of the Floyd Hill workshop yesterday. This is part of a larger package of funding to address increased costs and fully fund the final Floyd Hill construction package. The region is requesting to reallocate $10 million in funds from the I-25 interchange reconstruction at Spear and 23rd Avenue to the Floyd Hill project. This is the first part, the first piece of actions that you'll take today related to Floyd Hill. In the next item, we'll address the second part of that funding request. The third request in the budget supplement this month is a request from Region 3 to utilize $19 million in savings from 3 completed 10-year plan projects to fund phases 1 and 2 of the I-70 Exit 203 project. This will effectively advance the second phase of that project from the fiscal year 27 plus period, so that both the first phase that was already funded in the current period, as well as that second phase, can be advertised and delivered as a single project. And then the final request is a request from Region 5 for $4.1 million in TC contingency reserve funds to complete repairs to a bridge on State Highway 141 in Region 5. Heavy rains in August resulted in scour and debris, which removed the south abutment embankment that's since been temporarily repaired. The contingency funding will allow the project to move forward with a permanent repair. We are going to be seeking FHWA reimbursement, so it is possible, if we're successful with emergency reimbursement, that these funds ultimately may come back to the TC contingency. Happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, I'd request you consider a motion to approve.
All right. Any questions for Jeff on this resolution? Hearing none, entertain a motion to approve.
Move to approve. Mark Garcia.
Motion from Commissioner Garcia. Is there a second?
A second.
Second for Commissioner Ritter. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed, say no. All right, that passes. Thank you, Jeff. Next item is discuss and act on proposed resolution number 10, commitment of additional 10-year plan funds to Floyd Hill project. Jeff.
Thank you. So your approval of this resolution will advance 30 million from the fiscal year 27 plus 10-year plan period to the current fiscal year 19 to fiscal year 26 period for the I-70 West Floyd Hill project. And it'll do that by reallocating 15 million from the I-70 and Kipling Street interchange project in the fiscal year 27 plus period, and 15 million from the same period from the I-70 climbing lane from Bakerville to the Eisenhower Johnson Memorial Tunnel. We did again discuss this as part of the Floyd Hill workshop yesterday. Again, this reallocation and advancement of funds is part of a larger funding package to address increased costs and fully fund the final Floyd Hill construction project. That includes the 10 million in funds we just reallocated as part of the budget supplement, as well as additional funds identified by the region, which do not require commission approval for PD 703. So with your approval of this resolution and the budget supplement before it, the region will be able to move forward with budgeting and encumbering funds so the final construction package can move forward on schedule this spring. Happy to answer any questions. Otherwise, I'll request another motion to approve.
All right, thank you, Jeff. Any questions for Jeff on resolution number 10? Hearing none, I've entertained a motion.
Motion to approve.
Move to approve by Commissioner Masters. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Commissioner Holguin. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed, say no. All right, that passes. Thank you, Jeff. Next item is the discuss and act on proposed resolution number 11, courtesy patrol interagency agreement between CTIO and CDOT. Piper Darlington. Piper.
Yeah, thank you, Chair Hart. I'm here today to request your approval of proposed resolution 11. We had a good discussion on this item as part of the larger workshop on traffic incident management and safety patrol across the state. But just to reiterate, again, broad strokes, what this is about, we will be entering into a partnership with the Division of Maintenance and Operations to sponsor a fleet of courtesy patrol trucks that support the I-70 Mexel lanes. And as part of this sponsorship, we're going to be paying $450,000 for year one. And in exchange for that, we'll be getting some advertising on those trucks that are going to promote the express lanes. Again, this is really a win-win for CTIO and CDOT. This is a great chance for us to reinvest some of the safety and toll enforcement civil penalty revenues that we're collecting up there in safety, something that's going to support safety and operations of those Mountain Express lanes, as well as for CDOT. You know, as Bob highlighted yesterday, they're looking for a sponsor for this patrol. So really a win-win for both sides. I think there's quite a bit of details in the scope of work that's in your packet, but I think really broad strokes is this is going to create a sponsorship between CTIO and CDOT that potentially could have the opportunity to expand in future years. But this year you would be approving an IAA that would be for I-70 specifically. And this item was also approved by the CTIO board yesterday. And also I just wanted to thank Commissioner Scheer on behalf of the I-70 Coalition for his support. I-70 is a great supporter of CTIO. So I really appreciate hearing his support today for this item. So with that, happy to answer any questions, but would request your approval of proposed resolution 11.
All right, thank you, Piper. Are there any questions for Piper on this resolution number 11? Hearing none, I'd entertain a motion to approve resolution number 11.
Stewart, move to approve resolution number 11.
Thank you,
Second.
Commissioner Stewart. And it's been seconded by Commissioner Cook. Thank you very much. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
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 Any opposed? Say no. All right, thank you. That passes. Piper, thank you.
Thank you.
Good program. That takes us to the next item, which is discuss and act on resolution number 12, request for express approval, proposed public-private initiative agreement with National Renewable Solutions, NRS. Bob Pfeiffer. Bob.
Thank you, Chair. This proposal, we reviewed it last month at the workshop. Basically, it's access to our right-of-way for longitudinal, high voltage, above ground power lines along I-76. We did that workshop last month. Since then, we have received the chief engineer's determination on special extenuating circumstances, which was attached to your packet this month. And now we are requesting your express approval for us to continue down the public-private initiative in Resolution 12.
All right, thank you, Bobby. And yeah, we had a good conversation on this at our last month meeting. So are there any questions for Bob and staff on this proposed resolution number 12? Seeing none, I'd entertain a motion.
I move for approval.
Been moved by Vice Chair Adams. Is there a second?
I second.
Been seconded by Commissioner Masters. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none. All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed, say no. All right, that passes. Thank you, Bob. Okay, that takes us to the next item, which is recognition. We're going to have to go ahead and move that recognition to next month. We would prefer to do that when we're all there in person for the wonderful work that our staff has done. So we'll go ahead and delay that item to the March meeting. I'm getting a little ahead of myself. That gets to the next item, which is other matters. Herman, do we have any other matters this morning?
Nope.
Okay. Then I believe that ends the meeting today. We do not have we'll go ahead and adjourn the Transportation Commission meeting. And we do not have a Bridge and Tunnel Enterprise Directors meeting today, nor a Fuels Impact Enterprise Board meeting today either. So folks, I believe that we are done. Please stay warm. Please stay safe on the roads, and please pray for spring to come soon. So with that, we'll go ahead and adjourn.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
everyone.
Yeah, thank you.